Among the Sleep Enhanced Edition. Have you ever wanted to play the role of a toddler who feels like it's tripping acid? Well, this might be the game for you, and I kind of know how that feels. Should I get into that story? Why not? It wouldn't be one of my reviews if I didn't totally go off the rails in the first minute. Alright, so here it is. Halloween night, 1979. I heard about this story from my parents. So, I was 4 years old and I went trick-or-treating, and I got dosed with some drug on one of the candies. From what my parents told me, the hospital never found out what I had taken, but from what I was told, I kept saying, "The colors are everywhere," and just kind of spinning around all crazy. I don't remember much about the experience myself, but when people say watch out for your candy on Halloween, I can attest to that being true. Now this feels like this title was meant to be something else. From the movement to picking up items and the overall feel of everything. The whole time I was playing this, it felt like they were making a VR game and then just gave up halfway through and just decided not to change it. And a little bit of searching, it looks like that's exactly what happened. This was originally going to be a VR game and they decided against it. The story is about a mother and child. They're celebrating the child's birthday. She gets a mysterious visitor with a package for the child. She gives it to him and it's a bear. And it is the creepiest bear I've seen in a video game in a while. The bear talks to the child, and for some reason this doesn't freak the kid out. If this turned into a Child's Play spin-off, I wouldn't have been shocked. Spoiler alert, it doesn't happen. In the middle of the night, the mother disappears, and the child decides to search for her. To get into any more of the story, it would just be too much of a spoiler. Since this is a very short game, you could beat this in under 2 hours, and likely it's going to take you 3 because of bad pathfinding or level layouts. Overall, it would have been fine if it had a little bit of hand-holding. The amount of having to guess what to do next was just infuriating. You'll be wandering around, interacting with all kinds of stuff just to trigger the next part. The controls were just awful. When you were playing as a toddler, I could see them using the child's lack of dexterity to be an extra challenge. And that can be fair in a VR game where you're picking things up using motion controls. It can be a bit of a chore. But since this is not a VR game, they needed to do a way better job of interacting with the environment. It's also pretty dark most of the time. You can hug the bear to get some light, which was nice, but it was only temporary. The worlds that you explore were kind of dull. They were abstract versions of the place the child has visited. The creators thought that making it darker and adding spooky sound effects and surroundings would make it more interesting, and it just doesn't. It just makes it more of a chore to explore. It felt like a better version of The Letter. Okay, that's a little bit crazy. While it did have the same problems, that game was total garbage. Even when you get to the part where you need to find certain things, the game doesn't really explain why you're doing this. It pretty much says, do this and we can move on. It doesn't justify anything, or at least I didn't understand it. You could choose to run or crawl. There are advantages to both, and you're going to want to change between them to get around obstacles and finish up the story. Among the Sleep Enhanced Edition was a good example of a game that would have been way more interesting as a VR game than the actual game that was created. If you could play this as a VR game, I would be way more forgiving of the environments and the controls. However, since this is not a VR game, they really should have fixed all the level design problems and wonky controls. So should you buy this? No, not digitally or physically. It's almost $25 for the cheapest version of this on a normal day, and that's the digital version. But you can't find this on sale for a little under $20. But it's still not worth it at that price. If this was some like $5 to $8 game on the eShop, it might be different. But since it's such a short game with quite a few problems with it, I would just say skip it.